The Baltimore Ravens were hurting last season, specifically on offense as Lamar Jackson, Rashad Bateman, and Ronnie Stanley missed big parts of the season. But despite that, they went 10-7 and made the playoffs. They now head into 2023 with massive additions offensively, and I couldn't be more excited to talk about it. So let's go ahead and discuss. And what's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead, become bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content as always. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that nice, beautiful football discourse as we're talking about the Baltimore Ravens. We're going to be going over the coaching staff, the scheme, and the roster, but stick with me until the end of the video because I'm going to give you my prediction for the Baltimore Ravens in 2023. But without further ado, let's go ahead, get into the nitty gritty with the coaching staff, as John Harbaugh is one of the best coaches in the league. Holla, holla. This guy is kind of like Mike Tomlin in a sense. He has been here since 2008 and he's only recorded 2 losing seasons. He is a great culture guy for this squad. And if you're unfamiliar with Harbaugh, he kind of got brought up as a special teams coach under Andy Reid there in Philadelphia before arriving here in Baltimore. But he's just been phenomenal. He's done a good job of just putting the right guys in charge. I mean, obviously it's paid off. I know some people will be like, oh, Greg Roman. But honestly, I think Greg Roman was the right call for rookie Lamar because he really constructed an offense that played to Lamar's strengths. It's just unfortunate that, you know, they never developed him or took that next step as a passer. Like, I don't know, man. Greg Roman just never felt capable of doing that. And now we have Todd Monken, who last season was the OC for Georgia. And he's going to open up the playbook. He is going to be like, hey, Lamar, let's go sling the football. And I mean, yeah, we could talk all this good stuff about what Monken brings to this roster. But we got to remember, you know, he's kind of had stints in the NFL as an OC that were not ideal. They're with Cleveland, they're with Tampa, but I mean, it will be exciting nonetheless. Just knowing that they're going to open up this offense for Lamar Jackson. We're going to see a lot more 11 personnel, like 3-4 wide receiver sets. And they're really going to get Lamar slinging. So, I mean, yeah, that's a lot to be excited about. I'm kind of curious how the run game adapts to what he brings. I mean, like, in particularly, like Greg Roman was fantastic, like very creative when calling the run. This was a team that I think 70% of the time were calling like power with their blocking scheme. And that's something that Monken didn't really do a ton of. Like, I think hardly any at Georgia. He was more of this inside zone counter type of play caller. So it's like, how much do they really want to like change the blocking scheme when it comes to the run game? So I'm a little curious how that's all going to work out. But yeah, there's going to be there's a ton of excitement going on with Monken here now, specifically from the passing end. Because keep in mind, man, they brought in like multiple different passing game coordinators to kind of help out Greg Roman, and really nothing really came of it. But yeah, that's a big reason for excitement. Mike Macdonald is back as the OC. Last season was fabulous for him. He kind of came in there and replaced it was Wink, right? But regardless, he was a mentor of Wink Martindale, but he doesn't necessarily do things to the T of Wink Martindale. If you think Wink Martindale, I mean, you think blitz heavy and you think man coverage. And that wasn't necessarily always the case with Macdonald, who kind of incorporate. I did expect them to play more zone, as they played more of these like zone match, so like zone to man type of coverage, which that's fine, but it's not like they strayed away from man coverage. I mean, this team was 6th in the league in calling zero, which you're like, oh, okay, they're calling zero, then they must have been blitzing heavy, but they were like strategic. They were surgical with it. Like, if you go look, they were 21st in blitz rate, and it's like, okay, that's pretty low. if you're going to compare it to Wink. But then you look at, okay, like on third downs, it was like they were blitzing all the time. So again, kind of methodical, kind of surgical when it comes to that. And this defense was just really good last season. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited. The coaching here, it looks like it's headed in the right direction under Monken if things do open up to how we expect. And I guess without further ado, let's just go ahead, get into the roster and get into the offense. But first, I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is currently one of the most premier fantasy betting apps, and they got a best ball tournament with $15 million in cash prizes. So if you sign up at Underdog Fantasy using promo code Broshmo, they will match your first deposit up to $100. Remember, use promo code Broshmo when you sign up at Underdog Fantasy, and they'll match that first deposit up to $100. Dudes, there's not a better place to play fantasy football than Underdog Fantasy, but as always, bet responsibly, my friends. Let's get to this offense, and it starts with, we're going to get a healthy Lamar. Lamar played in 12 games last season, and honestly, people want to crap on him for not being like a great passer, like 75% adjusted completion percentage, which takes out spikes, throwaways, dropped balls. He was actually pretty darn good, and he actually suffered from a lot of drops, like 9% dropped balls on passes. That's pretty high rate. So he's hoping to get more from his receivers, and I mean they made two big additions from a receiver standpoint outside of just, add in the OC in Monken. But I expect, Lamar, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So I expect a business as usual when it comes to him. But let's talk about these receivers because, man, just stay healthy, right? You look at Rashad Bateman last season and he only played 6 games last year. That makes me sad after kind of like going on a hot streak during the last stretch of his rookie season. So I'm excited to see him play. He's a really, really good route runner with good size. So I'm excited to have him back healthy. Odell, OBJ, kind of the big receiver addition. You're kind of hoping he can stay healthy after a year removed from the ACL. So, and we know what Odell brings: explosiveness, great route running, can create after the catch, good speed. Like he's kind of this do-it-all guy, even in the later stages of his career. So, that's a great addition. They draft Zay Flowers, who I kind of expect to be the slot here, though you can make an argument. And also, to be fair, it's not like they were actually playing a lot of 11 personnel last season. Like if you go to look at their slot percentages, guys like Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely were kind of their leaders in the slot. Like the first receiver, you see like James Prochet and Devin Duvernay were even behind those guys by behind Mark Andrews by like 200 some snaps. So it's like, yeah, they didn't really go, didn't have actual slot receiver. They just throw their tight end in there. And now they get Zay. You could put Bateman, you could put Odell there. They could be very versatile with that respect. But I think Zay, being a bit more undersized than those other two guys, I think could work perfectly in the slot. He is very shifty. Route runner, can create after the catch, can separate vertically. Not saying he can't play on the outside. I think last season, in his last year at Boston College, he really proved, I can play on the outside. I don't know what you're talking about. So, the addition to OBJ, the addition to Zay Flowers, big reason for excitement. You're getting a healthy Rashad Bateman. It's like, I'm loving it. So, I like that a lot. Of course, you still have Mark Andrews, who, well, I guess when we get to the blocking, like one of the best blocking tight ends in football, whether it's pass protection or just run blocking. But he can do it as a receiver as well. He was their leading receiver last season by a healthy margin. I mean, funny enough, their second leading pass catcher was Demarcus Robinson, and he was like 400 yards behind Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews, he's just reliable. Yeah, good hands. Like, I mean, there ain't much to hate about Mark Andrews. I mean, he's a top 2 tight end, honestly. Top 2, top 3 tight end. So that's all good. If you're going to look more at the depth at the pass catcher position, let's go ahead and do that. They bring in Nelson Aguilar, who's fine. He's good depth. I think he's a good wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 in the league at this point in his career. I think it's a fair question to ask. Maybe then who makes the roster here? Because I think Never Duvernay. I mean, you gotta imagine he probably makes the roster just because of the return capabilities. James Prochet, you can kind of like. I feel like it's kind of James Prochet and Devin Duvernay that can occupy the same space. You could throw Tylan Wallace into that mix as well, but they also add Laquan Treadwell, who is a better run blocker than those guys, better size than those guys, has developed into a solid enough route runner. So maybe you feel like, okay, well, we want to have this type of receiver on our roster, so he might get an edge over guys like that. You have Dante Demas Jr., who I was a big fan of prior to the like horrific, I think it was an ACL, knee injury. It sucked regardless that he had against Iowa, and didn't really have that explosiveness last season. That's probably why he ends up going undrafted, but bigger size, can be that vertical target. So kind of look for him maybe to make a play on maybe making the roster, making like the final 6 here. But I definitely think he's probably the guy on the outside looking in. So we'll see. They do have Tariq Black here too. Wow, former Michigan vertical guy. So yeah, I mean, that's an interesting name. I don't think there's a good shot at him making the roster. Looking at the other tight ends, Isaiah Likely kind of emerged last season in bits and pieces as he ended up having almost 400 yards, 3 tutties, just good athlete. Like, didn't test well coming out of Coastal Carolina, which shocked a lot of people. Wasn't the biggest guy, but I mean, you watch him on the field and it's like, nah, man, you know this guy got it. Like, yeah, okay, the testing doesn't match what we saw on film, and you're typically going to weigh the film, and that could always be a negative thing, but in this case, it was more positive. I think I ended up dropping him down to like a 5th round pick after initially having him as this like fringe day 2 guy, and he ends up going, I think, the 6th round? No, he goes the 4th round. Okay, so that's probably about right. That was about right regardless. So like, yeah, no, it looks like he's going to be a good addition there. Charlie Collier didn't get many snaps. I think he was injured last season. Coming out of Iowa State, not like the best athlete, but good size. And I say not the best athlete, not like the shiftiest guy, but good size, huge catch radius. So like someone I expect to see more of here in year 2. He was drafted in the same round as Isaiah Likely in the same draft. So yeah, they want him to be a part of this roster. So hopefully he can stay healthy. Oh, they really don't have much of Elsa here at tight end. Just Travis, Vokelic? I don't know. Regardless, he's just this massive human being from Nebraska. 260, coming in at 6'6". I thought he was a little taller than that. Kind of is what it is. But regardless, yeah, tight end 4, that's fine. Let's talk about like the potential weapons from the running back, because I kind of expect the running backs to play more of a role as pass catchers because that wasn't the case with Greg Roman. So you got to think, okay, well, Justice Hill's kind of that guy coming out of Oklahoma State. I really like Justice Hill when he was coming out as like a day 3 pick. And he's just kind of been fine. Like, he hadn't really been used a ton as a receiver in this roster, and really hasn't done a ton in the NFL since being drafted. So this is where I'm like, okay, could be a good camp out, because they got, you can't even see it on the screen here. Let me just move this, because I'm looking at they got Owen Wright too. Okay, but Keaton Mitchell coming at ECU was one of the most explosive players in college football last season. Doesn't have great size, like 5'10", 180. But stupid explosive. He showed it as a return man. Wasn't used a lot in the receiving game there at ECU, but it's fine. You know what you know what you're getting, a guy who is just fabulous out in space. And I bring this up because Todd Monken, if you remember last season, Kenny McIntosh was kind of a huge part of the receiving game there at Georgia. So yeah, he's gonna want a scat back, a guy that can get involved in the receiving game. And fun fact, Melvin Gordon, Gus Edwards, and J.K. Dobbins aren't those guys, at least to the level of the guys that I have mentioned. So yeah, I'm kind of excited. I'm trying to remember what Owen Wright came out of. Mammoth. That's right. All right. Let's go ahead and get back to this. So, yeah, I think there's reason to be excited about the pass game with the additions. Honestly, that Hill and Mitchell camp battle, I think it's gonna be fire. Keaton Mitchell did end up being a UDFA, so if they want to just stick with Justice Hill, I think that's fine, and you'll see Mitchell on the practice squad. But I think his return capabilities allows you maybe to cut ties with some of the receivers there who you think maybe you could get upgrades over, like a Devin Duvernay or James Prochet, who have that return ability. Even Tylan Wallace, though, I think they haven't really tapped into Tylan Wallace as much as they can, and they actually have the extra year with Prochet and Duvernay coming from the 2020 class opposed to Wallace coming from 2021. So, like, I could see them maybe parting ways with the Duvernay or a Prochet and bringing and having like Treadwell maybe make the roster, just because he's different than what they have there currently, just having size and whatnot, being able to be a really good run blocker. So it kind of opens it up. So something to watch and stay tuned to. We go to I guess we could talk about the running backs before we get into the actual offensive line. J.K. Dobbins, I think he's fine. You probably don't hold on to him after this season. Depending on what money he's looking for, he did have that nasty ACL injury where he had multiple setbacks from, so it took him longer than expected to get healthy. And when he initially came out, I don't think it was fair to watch like when he first came back, because you could tell he was gassed. Like, there was this one like legit breakaway run, and he just he just ran out of gas. And again, part of that's like, hey, you're coming back from injury of that significance as well. So it's like, that's not really fair, but fair to, like, I guess, grade or evaluate him from. But as he, got to play for the rest of the season, you saw, I was like, you know what? He's fine. He's fine. Like, I don't think he's just like, again, really depends on how much he's asking for, but you do got to feel maybe his production could be replaceable with maybe a cheaper free agent, or just going into the draft and getting another guy. But don't get me wrong, don't get me twisted. Like, Dobbins is very, very good. It's just you got to wonder how much is that really worth. You just paid Lamar, so just putting that out there. They have Gus Edwards, good, reliable backup there. Or even if they need him to come in and start, like he can do that. But also a guy that had not the extent of injury, not the significant injury that like Domin's had, but has been beat up and banged up past few seasons. I think that's why they go out and get a Melvin Gordon, even though I'm not really that high on Melvin Gordon. I think he's depth at best. So like the running back room, it's fine. It's fine, but it's aided by this bad mamma jamma of an offensive line. They returned 4 starters from last season in you got Ronnie Stanley, though you're just hoping he could stay healthy, but he looked phenomenal coming back last season. So you got to expect if he's healthy, he's going to be one of the better he's like a top 10 tackle in the league at his best. So that's great. Tyler Linderbaum was a rookie there at center, and it was very interesting that they really got him moving in the run game, but you did see in the passing game, he did struggle with some of the size limitations that he has, being a little undersized. So Tyler, but all in all, man, I thought Linderbaum was great. So he comes back and you're expecting, okay, he's going to really just continue to develop and be just this great player for us. Kevin Zeitler, do we need to talk about him? This guy has never been he's never been average or bad in his career. He's always been good and then most times great. Yeah, he's getting a little older. You're kind of waiting for him to slow down. But until we see it, phenomenal. Morgan Moses, great pickup. I think he's a very underrated tackle in the NFL. I loved what he was doing with Washington. Don't know why they let him go, but that was a great pickup. He was with Washington most recent, right? Or am I misremembering? Because I know for a bulk of his career, he was with Washington. Oh, that's right. He had the little stint with the Jets in between. Okay, I was like, I'm remembering him in a Jets uniform. Hold on. But yeah, dude, he's been great. Like, I don't want to say great. He has been a very good tackle his whole career. Great pickup for them. But again, another guy that's getting older, but the Ravens are so good at developing for the future, and they do have options. If these guys take steps back or if injury does happen. Quickly, I do want to talk about the left guard position because that's kind of the position in question. You had Ben Powers, who went on to get a big contract. Ravens like, you know what? We don't want to pay that much. It kind of is what it is. You go make your money, boo-boo. And he did. Thank you, Denver. So they're looking to replace him. And currently listed as the starter is Mal. I don't want to butcher his name here. I really liked him coming out of Oregon. In terms of, I knew he wasn't going to be a tackle. Just he didn't have like the quicks, the foot speed to keep up in the NFL at tackle. Though I don't like, if you kind of need him to start in a pinch, I don't want to discount that because he's very good as a technician. So I just wouldn't discount that. But now he comes in here to play guard. I don't think necessarily the upside is high with him, but I think the floor is, and currently that's the guy getting a lot of buzz. But I am still leaning towards my guy, Ben Cleveland, Braun Strowman himself, because this dude has all the upside. Things just need to kind of click for him as a pass protector because he's already a really good run blocker in the NFL. Last season, didn't really see a ton of snaps, but I'm thinking that's the battle there, even though they don't have him listed. They have him listed as the right guard backup, but I think he's the guard backup in general. If they need him to step in, though, it's like with Mal, it's like Like Miles fine. Like he's been really good in the preseason. So it's like he's been good in the preseason, but still a rookie. So that is definitely the spot you're questioning. And I kind of lean on the guy that's been there longer and has more upside. So we shall see. Let's get to the depth of this offensive line, because you make a case Patrick McCarry could play left guard. Like this cat is probably one of the best tackles not starting in football. This guy could be a starting tackle almost anywhere. Like it just kind of blows my mind. And the thing is, like, not just tackle, like this guy could play guard and center. Like I think he start his career out as a center here for Baltimore. Like regardless, he has developed into a really good player. I think he's under contract through 2024. I don't know. I think they re-signed him 3 years, $15 million, right? I want to say it's 2024. I'll check that real quick, but like he gives you so much versatility. He is the next guy in if injury does happen to this squad. All right, here we go. We got the contract up. Okay, it is 2024. He's here through. So I mean, it'll be interesting if the Ravens may try to trade him at some point prior to the 2024 season, just to free up some cap. But I mean, he's a good player. If anything, maybe you're looking at him as the heir apparent at the right tackle position if Morgan Moses does take a step back. But then again, like you look, they got a developmental option, Daniel Falele, who was all right in some spot starts last year. Like how many snaps did he specifically have? Little under 200. I mean, he looked like a rookie, but I mean, I get it. At his size, he moves very well. I don't really think he's got that killer instinct, but I think he is going to pay dividends if this is a team that really does like lean into more of an inside zone. I think that'll pay dividends for Falele, but he is someone you necessarily don't want to see on the field just yet. Still developing. We kind of all knew he was a bit of a project coming out of Minnesota. They also have I guess the other guys I got here, like John Simpson, like fine depth, don't ever want to be a starter, and you could probably echo that all the more for Sam Mustipher coming from Chicago at center. I'd rather put McCarry there. Again, if injury does happen, McCarry is the first guy in. Andrew Voorhees, we'll see you next season. He's going to be a really good guard for them in the future. If anything, that's the heir apparent to Kevin Zeitler. I was very high on Andrew Voorhees coming out of USC. The dude tore his ACL doing drills at the combine. Came back the next day, was like, oh, well, before I get this thing taken care of, I got to do my bench still. Freaking love this dude. Had 6 great seasons there for USC. Just a phenomenal player, phenomenal character as well. Just he's a future star for the squad. They got a couple of developmental guys, I would say, or practice squad, like Jalen Thomas at a SMU. He's not going to see the field this season. Trayshawn Manning from Kentucky, I believe, he's not going to see the field this season. But they were all kind of like fringe day 3 guys who, yeah, they're more than likely practice squad players. Did mention Patrick Richard, who is probably like the second or third. What? Yeah. I would say him and CJ Ham are kind of this next tier after Kyle Juszczyk as like fullbacks in the NFL. But I mean, Richard's also the guy that plays defense. He plays special teams. That's why I liked golly, who was coming at NC State? Derek Thomas? That doesn't sound right. NC State. I could just check I don't think it's Derek. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and just check my spreadsheet from last draft. Regardless, like Yeah, like Richard, really good player. He's making the roster. I don't think there's any doubts about that. We could talk about if Lamar does go down, Tyler Huntley can win them some games. He's proven that. That's why they bring him back. So, like, yeah, this roster is phenomenal. They're a top 10 squad. I don't hate it. I don't hate it one bit. I have the name right here. Who was I thinking of? Where are you at? There ain't no way I just lost him again. Was it NC State or was it Houston? It was Houston, Derek Parrish. Bam. I knew it was red. Derek Parrish. Yeah. Parrish coming in the league at like 6 foot, 241. Just a football player. But I think I've already talked about him. Yeah, I got him as a top 10 unit, especially as long as everyone can stay healthy. Then that's great. Let's go ahead and jump to the defense. Hey, what do you know? Another top 10 unit. Yeah. Day be good. Let's start with this defensive line. Sorry for the squeaking, dude. I gotta get a new chair, but I probably won't until the end of the year. Maybe I'll wish to Santa for a new chair. But let's start with the defensive line, because obviously they don't bring back Justin Houston, they don't bring back JPP, because I assume they really want to see what they like. Odafe Owe, it's like, hey, can you take that step and be our guy? Like last season, I would say I felt like he was just kind of like fine. He had 43 pressures, 6 sacks on 665 snaps last year. Not an impressive number. So you're kind of hoping he does take that next step for the squad. But you also have David Ojabo there laying in the weight. Not really a run defender, but the athleticism he brings at his size, just the quicks. You are very excited about him, but probably ends up being a DPR, at least early on. I didn't really see much of what he did last season, because keep in mind, it was like, I think he only saw the field for like a handful of snaps. Yeah, he only saw the field for 23 snaps. But he got a sack last year. Good for you. Tyus Bowser's the other starter I have listed here. I think they're going to be fluctuating. This is a team that loves going into their depth. So we're going to see them actually like really, really bringing in a variety of different guys. I mean, they just signed Javion Clowney, who's wearing 24, by the way. Ugh, don't like that. But they bring him in. So it's like, yeah, it's going to be a deep rotation. But Bowser's kind of this hybrid guy that you can drop back into coverage. I think last season he had the fourth most snaps last year, with 61 of his 390 snaps. Him dropping into coverage. So he's a bit more flexible for them. They really like Bowser. So yeah, it's kind of hard to pin down specifically who will be the snap leaders here at the edge position. You look at Odafe, you look at Ojabo, you look at Clowney, you look at Bowser, and you could really order that however you want. I think probably Owe, and then I think it's gonna be like Bowser, Clowney with Ojabo. I'm pretty confident will end up being fourth in that regard. You look at we'll get to the depth as a whole. Let's go to the interior starters. Justin Matabuke, he was solid for him last season. Felt more like a pass rusher though. So, but it's like, I don't really think there's anyone they can really like. They got decent enough depth. And I listed Michael Pierce as a starter. He's fabulous when on the field, but the dude just can't stay healthy. I think we see more Travis Jones this year, if that's the case, if Pierce can't stay healthy, because they don't have many guys that can play that nose tackle position. Not that they deploy it a ton, but they do it enough to where it's like, hey, somebody's got to fill that position. Jones is the only guy with that type of girth, man, at 338. Like they had Broderick Washington play that a little bit, but mainly you're trying to play him as this like 3-tech guy. So like, okay, I guess Washington's the guy behind Matabuke. Washington, a better run defender, I would say, than Matabuke, but I don't think he gets after it as well as Matabuke. But again, we're talking about a rotation here. They're bringing Brent Urbans. I guess we could now jump to the depth because honestly, I think when it comes to starters, like those are the 4 guys potentially on the interior. If Pierce gets hurt, Travis Jones gets a step up, which I loved him coming out of UConn. Like at his size, like not having a lot of him just being jacked, lean, and him testing relatively well too, produced well, looked like a monster at the Senior Bowl. So it's like, yeah, man, I was shocked. I had a second round top. I think he was in my top 50 in the 2022 draft. But let's go ahead and get to that depth that they have on the defensive line. Let me adjust this sucker. All right. So looking at the depth, we'll start with the edge. As they did draft Travius Robinson in the 4th round. I had him as a late day 3 borderline priority UDFA. That's where I had him. So for me, this was kind of a big reach. I get why they like him. Length, I don't know. I don't see him seeing the field at all. I actually really liked Jeremiah Moon. He played, he was kind of a hybrid at Florida where he played off ball, but also could get after the rusher. So like a year of development, I'm kind of curious. Like I'm kind of curious if he ends up seeing the field at all this year. I kind of liked him. He was kind of a sleeper for me. They also got Malik Ham. It's not the Louisiana cat. Where did you come from, Malik Ham? Lafayette. I knew it was Louisiana. I wasn't 100% though. I don't think I watched a ton of them, so I couldn't really give you an honest opinion about Malik Ham. So I mean, really, like the guys we talked about, those are your starters. Brett Coleman and EJ Snyder brought up this very interesting point of potentially how the Ravens foresee Trent Simpson, because Marcus Whitman, that franchise guy, you know, he talked more about him as a potential like heir apparent to like Patrick Queen if they don't want to re-sign him, or not that they don't want to, but they can't afford to re-sign him because Patrick Queen's kind of on the up and up. And we'll get to linebacker in a second, but Trenton Simpson, I kind of expected, it was like, oh, okay, they're going to develop him. Like, for me, I was like, oh, yeah, definitely. Like, that's probably Patrick Queen's replacement. But then Brett Coleman kind of floated the idea. It's like, oh, I think it's Tyus Bowser's replacement. Someone who is just a really good athlete, can play out in space, but also can get after the passer. And if you remember, like Trenton Simpson, not last year at Clemson, but I think it was the year before, where they really utilized him as a pass rusher, and he was kind of a monster. Like he was a legit hybrid for them, where they would line him outside and just like, hey, go get after it. This is when he was like playing more of an overhang safety role for them, so like NFL slot role. So I found that very interesting, and I could definitely see it. I don't know if that's what they're specifically going to do, but you caught my attention. So I wanted to bring that up with Trenton Simpson, as he's not seeing the field this year. There's not a lot of good depth there on the defensive interior. Like Brent Urban's solid, but Angelo Blackson's journey depth guy, like bottom of the barrel, bottom of the roster depth guy. And then they got a few UDFAs who could be, or probably launch shots to make the squad. Moving to the linebacker position, because again, this defense is just good. They're good at stopping the run. They're very good at stopping the run. Raekwon Smith's a big part of that. Like Patrick Queen, early in his rookie contract, Just you saw like missed tackle machine, very undisciplined in gap discipline, knowing where to stuff run lanes. And this is why they make a move. They spend a second round pick to go out and get Roquan Smith, and instantly solves that problem. Like Roquan Smith might not be like, I don't think he's like an elite athlete, but he is someone who knows how to play the linebacker position. Someone who it just clicks for him. He's hardly out of position and can make plays in coverage because of that. So great addition. That's why they pay him big money. Patrick Queen, it kind of enabled him to be like, all right, well, we're going to allow you to go out and play more out in space because we know how great of an athlete you are. And more so towards the sidelines and such, rather than, kind of being this just big mistake waiting to happen in the middle of the field. And Queen did really well in that role. Yeah, there were some times where it was like, okay, like blown coverage is what it is, because he is kind of like, he wants to make big plays. He's kind of this high risk, high reward type of guy. But them playing him more more of this like weak side linebacker role, also enabled him to go and get after it as a pass rusher. 25 pressures last season, 7 sacks. So yeah. Me like you a bit. And he cleaned up his tackling too. Cleaned up his tackling. He was down to a 14.2%, which still high, but could be a lot worse. You get to 18 to 20%, then you're just awful. 14, again, not so bad. About average. Let's go talk about the depth of it. They actually got a solid depth though, because Malik Harrison, really good option there. I don't think he's really proven to be a high-end starter, but he can start if you need him to. I thought this team is Josh Bynes still in the NFL? He's gotta be. He's perennial depth guy. No, he's still out there as a free agent. Okay. I imagine they could bring in a Bynes who is just good. If you need him to spot start, great. You're going to get great snaps out of him. If you want him to start all season long, that can be fine as well, but it's just not to a high degree. It's going to be fine. It's just going to be fine. But Malik Harrison's really, really solid there. Couldn't really tell you much about Delshon Phillips or Christian Welch. But Trenton Simpson's going to be sitting here as linebacker 4. So, yeah, if they ever bring 3 linebacker sets out, or if there's injury, it's Malik Harrison. Malik Harrison's very capable and could bring some high-end play to the position as well. All in all, are there stars outside Roquan Smith? There's really no stars in the front 7. But they have they probably have some of the better depth in the league. So yeah, you got to feel good about that. Going to the back end, we got Marlon Humphreys, who I hear is expected to miss the first week or 2 of the NFL season, but he'll be back. And to me, he's a top 10, top 5 in some cases. I'm kind of a mark for Marlon Humphrey, and I can acknowledge it, but I think he's for almost everybody, top 10. For me, probably a top 5 corner in the NFL. Though last year those rankings did shift quite a bit with with Sauce coming into the league and Tyreek Woolen. Though I don't think Woolen's a top 5 guy, but he could very well be in the future. But I love Humphrey, man. He's great. He can play on the outside. He can play in the slot. He brings that versatility. He's actually very... what's the word I'm looking for? he's also versatile. He's not like scheme dependent. So he can do man, he can do zone. He just works out great for him. He's their best corner. They brought in Rock Ya-Sin, who is essentially a replacement for Marcus Peters, slash last year was Brandon Stevens on the outside a lot, I think. And yeah, that's great. Like Rock Ya-Sin, very capable cornerback too in the league, and someone who's, to be honest, like someone who's played a lot of zone coverage in his years, like in the league, coming from like Indianapolis, coming from Patrick Graham and the Raiders last season. They were a bit more zone heavy, but yeah, no, he's gonna be fine. He's gonna be fine. I think he's a solid number 2. They also they bring in Ronald Darby, who, if healthy, can compete for corner 2 if they need him to. Might end up being the slot, where, because there's a ton of questions with the slot, because I know you're looking at Ardarius Washington and be like, come again, and I'm like, I think the slot's a wide open camp job at this point. But also the secondary provides a lot of versatility in what they can do, and we'll kind of get into it when we get into the depth. But we got Marcus Williams, one of the best safeties in the league in my opinion. I think he's definitely a top 7 safety in the league. Just rare range, can really play. Could really play from sideline to sideline and be that ball hawk. That's why they paid him the big bucks. So big fan of him. Kyle Hamilton moves more to a box role here, but also if they need him to come in and play slot, they can. That's actually where he played a majority of the time last season, I believe. Let's go ahead and look. 354 of his 600 snaps came in the slot last season, because the dude's got a lot of length, big body, good explosiveness. So he shows those short area quicks. Now moving more to a box safety role, which I think is fine. It'll work out well for him. He's got the size. That's great. Then again, in this defense, there will be the occasional split highs, which makes me think maybe they move him to safety, and move him to slot and bring in like a Geno Stone, who played really good for them. And let's just go ahead to the depth, because there's a lot of scenarios to go over here. Excuse me. So they have Geno Stone, who played really good for them and can step up and allow Kyle Hamilton to move the slot, because currently they really have no one that is proven there in the slot. Maybe Darby. But can Darby stay healthy? That's kind of like the Achilles heel here. Damarian Williams starts the year, I believe, a little banged up. I think he's not directly on the IR. I don't think he is. Oh, yeah, no. It's the ankle, and he might be out till week 3. Because that was initially who I was like, okay, maybe he can challenge, because he played a little bit last year in the slot. Wasn't great, but like he was also a rookie. They bring in Arthur Mallett, who it's like not really a high-end guy, so like I really hope he doesn't see the field. I would rather take my chances with sticking Brandon Stevens, who's just a defensive back, a guy who was initially a safety, who at SMU, I believe, kicked out to corner once he arrived here with the Rams, and it was kind of trial by fire for him. But he has that versatility where I think he could play in the slot, play outside, he could play at safety as well. I kind of mentioned with Marlon Humphrey that he could play there in the slot. I think especially if you have a healthy Ronald Darby, you feel a bit more confident about that. But I think particularly you're probably keeping him outside, and you'd rather like Kyle Hamilton dipping into the slot and Geno Stone coming in at safety. I think that's probably the best case, or Ronald Darby plays slot. Brandon Stevens, I feel like it's just depth at this point. Jalen Armour Davis, I curious how he has progressed in his development. Didn't see that much playing time last season at all. I can't recall if it's injury or just like wasn't necessary, but I'm kind of curious because I thought he was a good technician coming out of Alabama. They did draft Caillou Blue Kelly in the 5th, who's, I guess you could say, slight undersized or a little shorter for the position, but he's a good athlete. But like he plays so much bigger than he actually is, like physical. Like this, him, like if you go back to his the 2021 season, Stanford versus USC, and go watch him and Drake London going at one another. Sometimes getting the better of one. It was one of the best corner wide receiver battles that season, and I loved it. And it just showed because Caillou Blue Kelly's getting. I mean, if you're not familiar, Drake London, he's huge. He's huge. Caillou Blue Kelly just like getting in his grill, like, nah, I don't care if you're the bigger dog. There's more fight in this dog, and I just like that about him. Does he start right away? Probably not. But a great guy to develop. After that, again, I kind of leaned into our Darius Washington being maybe the actual guy who's will play a majority in the slot. That's kind of where I leaned because he came out of TCU. He's undersized, so it's like, okay, he's probably going to be a slot only or viewed as a slot only in the league, but he's got legit ball skills. I believe he had the most snaps in the slot in the preseason thus far, but I'm kind of banking on maybe on a guy that I really liked in the 2021 draft, maybe finally emerging. After that, really not much to talk about. Kevin Seymour or Kavon Seymour was someone who I kind of liked as this like potential journeyman through the league, but I don't think he's a guy you have to keep on the roster anymore. They bring in DeAndre Houston Carson, who's fine, probably outside shot to make the roster. Daryl Worley, a former corner, I guess now converted to safety. I don't see him making the roster. The interesting name here is Corey Mayfield Jr. coming out of UTSA, who I think probably could vie for a position. Like if they do feel uncomfortable with their slot players. He primarily played outside for UTSA, but at his size, you look at him as like, okay, maybe you're a slot player, but nonetheless, like options. That's the thing. Like this team is very deep. Like you maybe see like a handful of superstars, like okay, Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Williams, Roquan Smith. But after that, it's like immense depth. That's why I got them as a top 10 unit in the league. But let's go ahead and get to my predictions for the Baltimore Ravens in 2023. And I got them going 11-6. Yeah, they're a great squad. They could actually be better than this if they can stay healthy. And yeah, we go by the game by game. I have them really good at home. I have them 50-50 against winning teams. I feel like they're gonna be in the running for that 1 seed. It's just the AFC's tough. But yeah, let's go with the game by game. They start with Houston. I essentially have them split in division. AFC North's really tough, so I just had everyone split. So I have them losing to the Bengals. It's probably because I have the Bengals late down the season, and they're a really good late season team. Beating the Colts, they're probably beating the brakes off of the AFC South. It's probably how I have it. Again, I told y'all I have them split in with the their division rivals. So yeah, it's not surprising that I gave all the home teams the win there. They travel to the UK, to London, to face Tennessee, and I think they can win there. I got them beaten in Detroit. Detroit's going to be a very tough team. Question is, they were a hotter team during the second half part of the season. They don't get a bye until like week 13, I think. Yeah, week 13. But beating Arizona, that's kind of a no-brainer. Got them beaten Seahawks. So, I think that game could probably go either way. Then right before their bye, they have to face the Chargers at home. And I feel like that's a good case where it's like, all right, this team's probably going to be beat up. They're going to probably be tired. And they have to go play the Chargers in LA. So going into their bye, they probably could drop one. Coming out of the bye, you get the other LA team, which is nice. Because this team, I will be shocked if any part of them are healthy by the end of the season. Yeah, so I have y'all I have the Ravens beating the brakes off of the AFC South. Do you have them losing to the Niners here? This is, I mean, you're playing in, I'm calling it Candlestick. I don't care. You're playing in San Fran. So like that one could honestly go either way. I got the Dolphins beating y'all. Maybe Tua's healthy. Fins up, baby. Fins up. I'm a Dolphins fan. Hey, I've already done the Dolphins like deep dive, so you can't say I'm biased. Like, I feel like I'm one of the more realistic Dolphins fans out there. I'm just saying. Like, my position, then again, with the Dolphins, I'm such a fence sitter. Like, especially with like this whole Tua discussion, like people are like either super pro Tua or super anti Tua. There's really no in between. And if you like me, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I hope he proves he's our franchise guy this year, but also he needs to stay healthy. And also I'm not confident that he could consistently be a top 10 quarterback, but I hope all those things, like we've seen that he can be. Can he do it consistently? So it's like, yeah, okay. Realistic Dolphins fan. Just saying. But yeah, I mean, like, it's not like the toughest schedule outside of your division games. Honestly, that's the toughest part of your schedule. You get the NFC West, which they have two good teams, and then the other two are really dog water. You get the AFC South, who honestly, Jags, Titans, tough game. I think those can be tough games there. But then you get Colts and the Texans, who are starting their rebuild. So it's like, yeah, but yeah, Ravens, I mean, this team could win like 13 games, and I wouldn't blink an eye. I think the over and under on them is 10.5, and unless they're hurt, I see them winning more than 10 games. So, yeah, you let me know in the comment section below. That's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube theme, but as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.